We all knew this day would eventually come. The day where I just lose it a little bit, and instead of trying to get to round 50 with guns, I'll be doing it with grenades. Oh god. Grenades have been a staple piece in Zombies from the beginning, spawning in with 2 grenades and then being able to lug around 4 of them from round 2 onwards. But they've never really been the best thing to use. Sure, they're useful when you need a crawler or you're out of ammo, but they've never been the main go-to weapon to use. Until recently, Black Ops 4 introduced us to several new throwable items, Wraithfires, the Acid Bomb, Claymores, and out of all the new equipable grenades, the Wraithfire always stood above, just being the absolute chad of a weapon it is. Now don't worry, this is very much a grenade only challenge. I'm not going to start chucking blue fire all over the joint, but we are starting with Black Ops 4. I know there'll be some of you seething that I'm not doing this on Black Ops 1 or 2, yeah, but no. You see, there are 2 things that you kind of need for this to be attainable. Firstly, grenades that are actually good. Yes, those Black Ops games have the Semtex, but it's not great come the mid-teens. And the second thing you need is PhD. Now this isn't really a necessity. I'm sure if you're just goated on the sticks, you'll be fine without it. Me, on the other hand, definitely not. I will 1000% blow myself up without it. For the other game of this run, I was allowing my knife, or in this case the stiletto, as you can't just buy grenades whenever you run out in this game. You have to wait for them to recharge. So just allow it, yeah? I did choose this game for a good reason though, that being this game's perk system. The perks in this game are kind of wild. There are several perks that just make you godly at certain things. For instance, Ethereal Razor, Winter's Wail, PhD. And it wasn't just PhD that I was after, because there is also Time Slip. 99% of the time, Time Slip is trash. It's not the best perk ever. You know, there's a reason they tore it apart and coupled it together with Speed Cola and Cold War. But today, it will have its moment to shine. You see, Time Slip reduces the charge time for lethals as well as a bunch of different things. But I thought to myself, Time Slip plus equipment plus 3 grenades that I can hold, I'll never run out of grenades. The only issue was it didn't work as well as I'd hoped, like at all. It was round 10 when I finally got both Time Slip and PhD, and it just didn't really work as quickly as I thought it would. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting the flash or anything, but it was still way slower than I'd hoped. So I then got my 2 other perks that activate the modified Time Slip. It's still just as slow. I used my equipment elixir during round 11, and it took more than 6 rounds to charge. In that time, I managed to go down twice, losing both of my revives, which was phenomenal. Almost fully level my special, and because spoilers, because you know I kept running out of grenades and I needed something to keep me alive. And even after all of that, on round 17 I died before the elixir had even recharged, and the modifier is specifically garnered to charge elixirs quicker. So yeah, first run was great, and the second run was also a mess. I decided to switch over to Cold War. I realized that Black Ops 4 it wasn't it. Now, Cold War on paper seems like the perfect place for this. Every lethal throwable is infinite damage. At least I believe all of them are. I know for definite like the grenades are though. That means any normal enemy doesn't stand a chance against my splody boys. Once again, you can't just outright buy grenades. I mean, you can, but you have to salvage, and it takes a while to build up a nice backlog of that. And with that, I was allowing the use of my pistol when needed. And yes, I chose Mao de Totem for this. Dumb idea, you know, but I was trying to be a little adventurous, take a few risks. Yeah, it was just an awful idea all around. Main reason for this is that the grenades deal significantly less damage to boss zombies. I'm talking literal peanuts in comparison, like it's actually wild. Now my first experience with just how bad the grenades are against boss enemies came on round 10 when the first Panzer spawned. I think you can see where this is going. I was expecting to take him down in maybe 2 grenades. Yeah, not a chance. Considering the Semtex was dealing 1,250 damage per explosion to the Panzer. An enemy, by the way, that can have upwards of 200,000 health. So, yeah. Obviously, those health numbers don't come into play until you're at some pretty high rounds, but even at the low rounds, it was still taking upwards of 10 grenades to take him out. It was safe to say I was less than optimistic for this run. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this run specifically just kind of became a throwable only challenge. I was basically completely out of salvage almost all the time, so buying grenades was almost always off the table, and I wasn't really getting the luck with the drops. So when lethals did drop, I was just taking whatever I could get my hands on. on, and it worked. We started making some pretty decent progress, and we're even getting close to around 20. But then, around 16, everything fell apart. The Panzer is back, and he just causes chaos. And before I know it, I'm down, and all the perks that I just bought were now gone, and I was well and truly screwed. Luckily, I kept a hold of PhD, as well as a few grenades after reviving, but nothing was working. The Panzer was still going strong. I flipped around and got some more perks, and I also got myself a Casimir, which thankfully did the job, and the Panzer was down. That wasn't the end of the hardship though, as the very next round I take another down. At this point, I'm hanging on by a thread. I get a few more perks back and scrounge together as many lethals as I can and just start trying to make it as far as possible. I make it into the 20s, but I don't make it far. A mimic spawns, which is basically just impossible for me to kill, as bullets and grenades do very little damage to it. However, I don't need to kill the mimic to make it through the rounds, so I just kind of left him to it, and eventually I made it to round 22, where another Panzer spawns and just annihilates me. So yeah, two pretty underwhelming runs so far. But I headed back to the drawing board and came up with a new plan. That plan involved The Machine, as it's the easiest map in Cold War. This time, I was going to give myself 10 full rounds where I could use whatever I liked, where I could then gather points, grenades, and salvage, so that I at least had a nice stockpile of usable stuff when it came to only using grenades. I got power on round 7, which meant no Wonder Fizz until round 17, which also meant no Mule Kick or PhD. Mule Kick is so important in Cold War as it does a few very nice things. One being it has a chance to not consume any throwables when used, which is huge. And it also increases drops from zombies, which is another massive boost. I also decided to do the Coffin Dance Easter egg on round 8, mainly for the salvage. I was also really hoping the free perk wasn't just Jug and that I could get Mule Kick if I already had Jug. It wasn't the case. Round 9, we had our first Megaton to fight. Now, I thought these would be easier to fight with only grenades compared to the boss zombies on Mauer. I was wrong. And I was once again in a little bit of a predicament. So I decided on this. I was allowed to use guns, any guns, to kill only the Megaton. This is very similar to my PhD round 50, where I discovered the perk is great against killing regular zombies, but it's near impossible to use it as the sole damage dealer against bosses. Same thing here, pal. Grenades are great against zombies, but awful against the bosses, so guns it was. The 1911 does a decent enough job at taking him down on round 9, but later I go and pick myself up the daddy that is the Hauer shotgun. 10 rounds later, round 19, the Wonder Fizz is open. Yes, I was late, leave me alone. I get all of my perks bought, but then I take it down about 20 seconds later as I just get bombarded with zombies in that area. I tried to escape, but there was no use. I was down. Upon reviving, I managed to make my escape, buy some grenades, and clear out the round. With the zombies taken care of, I got PhD and Mule Kick and got back to it. The Semtex was my grenade of choice. This thing is insanely powerful, and not only is it infinite damage, it will take out a full wave with just one grenade. Nothing else to it. Once I got into the groove of things and I had my perks and armor helping me, these rounds were incredibly easy. I knew once I got into it, Cold War would make this easier, just because, it's Cold War, but I wasn't expecting it to be as simple as what it was. Like, it got to a point where I genuinely think doing this is easier than trying to get to round 50 with certain guns in this game. It was honestly kind of wild. The 20s and the 30s went by in a breeze as the Semtex continued to do the business. The Hauer, of course, was dealing with the Megaton at every encounter too, as it's just, the best of the best. It may have been taking forever, but I was confidently moving towards that round 50. We cross into the 40s. We take it round by round, zombie by zombie. With Mule Kick at hand, I very rarely had to worry about buying grenades, and I got to a point where I had several thousand salvage just waiting to be used. I was in the best possible position. We make it past round 45 and we're into the home stretch. Round 46 goes by. Round 47 goes by. Round 48, I go down. Yes, I take it down at the very death of round 47. I throw out a grenade that procs Shatter Blast, and every single zombie bar one dies. I whiff my shot with the Hauer as I panicked, and because I have no shield, he takes me down in 3 hits, and then the round ends. I revive into the beginning of round 48. I am not in a good place. I leg it to the Wonder Fizz and get my perks where a Plague Hound almost ends the run, sending my brain into just panic frenzy. I have no grenades, so I run to the workbench, but I'm in full panic mode at this point and just can't quite navigate the menu quickly and correctly, and it results in me taking another down. down. Elemental Pop saves me, but there was no hope. I'm surrounded. I throw out a grenade, and that paired with a few cheap hits takes me out once and for all. Round 48. It was going so well, and then all of a sudden, so wrong. maybe it just wasn't meant to be. Thank you for watching. Drop a like and let me know what other zombies content you want to see from me. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.